Today's video is about a lot of things that go under the umbrella of shadow work. Shadow work. Majorly, Carl Jung spoke about shadow work. And what is shadow work? Let's go over that first of all. So, shadow work, imagine as if all the knowledge of things, all the concepts, if it's a table, all the concepts, all the knowledge, if it is a table, and that who you think you are is put on that table because it's also a concept. Now, once you have something on that table and there's light, because your consciousness, that consciousness is light, obviously and naturally, you have a shadow. Shadow work this is an analogy to understand what shadow work is, or basically what is shadow. What is it that we call shadow? Now, this shadow is not you, or not even who you think you are. This shadow is a part of that who you thought you were at one point, and then another aspect of you rejected that part, rejected that sense of self, who performed that specific action. You would utilize words like, that's not me. I've said that a lot of times. Actually, I said that recently to somebody. And you would hear people saying, that's not me. Somebody who did that's not me. That's not how I do that. So that's a part of the bifurcation of the personality, where one is basically referring to self as somebody who did something, but that's not usually that what they do. So that is an indication that there's a part of their personality that goes under that aspect of the shadow work, which they reject, which is beneath them, like how the shadow is beneath you, same way, which is beneath them, which is not them, but still it's them who perform that action. In the long run, the shadows, the different aspects of self which are dissociated from self, that's called dissociation. Basically, something that you do not associate yourself from, is actually resultant of a lot of psychological symptoms, a lot of situations, or even to some aspect, not all of them, bipolar disorder or multiple personality disorder, or even hardcore issues come under this one specific phenomena of dissociation, which is basically overall shadow, the presence of a shadow, that which is beneath that what I think I am. And when it does something, then you find yourself, or the person finds themselves saying that that's not me who did that. So obviously the shadow work is basically a phenomena of reintegrating all internal selves, all personalities of self that may have done something and was beneath who you are or who they were, and because of which it was suppressed, repressed, and rejected, and causing that specific part of self to only come out in specific cases. The cases being the conscious mind. Usually the conscious mind, the way it works is basically, is for the sake of simplicity, the conscious mind has a checklist for everything, like how you go for dating, and in order for you to say yes to someone, to go on a date with them, they must meet those criteria. For us men, it's not too many, but for women, it's like too many things in the list. Nothing wrong there, but that criteria has to be met before there's that behavior comes out, before that self comes out. And as soon as the conscious mind sees those checklists, those things that are check marks, the conscious mind begins bringing that specific part out. So usually it's like three parts, or the counterparts of the brain. Let's call them, for the sake of simplicity, A, B, C. So A goes, here's the checklist. B goes, in the past I did this decision. And C goes, in the past we made this action, let's do the same again. And that's how it's executed. Now, the more we repeat the same behavior, the less the decisive part, let's call that B right now, like we said, where the decision is made whether I want to execute that same action or not. The more the action is repeated, the less time is given to the stage B, where the decision is made whether I actually want to make that decision. So eventually what it goes is, it goes directly from A, that is, we have this checklist and it's met, to C, let's take this action now. So here we come to the concept of the something that we call isolation. Here we come to the concept of the isolation. So isolation can be of two types actually. Isolation is depressive isolation, one, and second one is sacred isolation. What do I mean by that? So depressive isolation is where you are lonely, and you don't have anyone with you, and you feel depressed because of that isolation. As compared to that, the sacred isolation is where you are alone and you're okay with it, and you're accepting yourself in that isolation, and you want that isolation. You actually really enjoy that isolation and cherish that isolation. What that does is basically that makes your shadows start coming up. So your shadows start responding, start talking to you in different ways and formats, because otherwise you're always kind of balancing yourself with the other person, where like, you're going down, the other person pushes against, the other person going down, you push back. So you are basically learning to have that push and pull relationship with the other people, where you balance yourself with them. But because that isolation is where there's nobody else but only you, the only thing that you become aware of is the other aspects of you. Hence it becomes sacred isolation, because this is exactly where your shadow starts talking to you and telling you, I need this, I need that, or I need that person, or I need this person. And it becomes sacred because this is where integration happens. Now, there are a lot of ways to get rid of the shadow. Lots of ways to do that. Some of the ways we do that in the clinic, or we do that in the transformation journey, where you have a transformation coach who understands things like these and works with you to get rid of those different aspects, or to get rid of those aspects of your internal being which are not in line with where you are going. Right, where you're going is who you want to be, so that you have that specific behavior patterns, those specific things that you do, which gives you those specific results. And anything that is not in line with is taken care of. Now, a lot of the techniques utilized for that are neurolinguistics programming, holographic memory resolution, and hypnosis, the most common one. And then another one is meditation, and going into that what we call sadhana. Sadhana is basically where you sit, focus on your breath, and you just focus on your breath continuously for a long time. Sometimes some people do that for hours, some people do that for days. Longest I've been in sadhana has been 4 days, 4 to 5 days roughly. And then there are different states where we do walking sadhana, which longest I have been in was about 6 months in total. During that phase, that shadow work begins to happen by itself, because the internal voices start talking to you. And that's why most of the people, they hate being alone, they hate being isolated, and it's being depressive to them, because they want they have those specific parts of self that need others to balance you out. In any of the cases, overall big huge transformational jumps, they happen when you allow and want that isolation to happen, when you want that internal integration to happen, where all aspects of you become one and merge into one. That is a beautiful state to come to. It's so powerful state where you begin to have that personal power, that you could walk into a room and people become aware of your power. So personal power. Now, we'll talk about personal power, or you can experience personal power once you start implementing these things into your life. However, let me talk about what is not personal power. So dependence is the pure opposite of personal power. Dependence is the opposite of personal power. You cannot have personal power as long as you're depending on others. You're depending on others for your need of validation, for the approval, or for applause. Or maybe you're explaining people that you're a good person, or that you have a reason, that you are a righteous person, that you have a reason that you did something. As long as you are depending on those tactics, as long as you're exhibiting those behavior to do those things, that is, to need validation, to get approval, to get applaud. Actually, a lot of people do that, to get applaud from people, or maybe explaining it to people so that you get the response saying, no, you are right, no, you are a good person. That's dependability. That's being dependent on the other. Anybody who is dependent on the other for whatever reasons is going to be lacking personal power, period. And the truth is, you don't have to convince anyone that you're a righteous person, because those who have judged you already, or who are judging you already, are going to look at you from that perspective. They're not going to look at the data to say, oh, maybe I was wrong. They're actually going to they're just going to get confirmation that my analysis of this person is correct. And even if you provide them the data that is the otherwise, chances are they're going to look at you with the same lens. Hence, in psychology, a very common phrase that is, perception is projection. Once they have perceived you in a certain way and started judging you, they're basically just going to get confirmation. That's all they're looking for, that their perception and their analysis and their judgment of you is absolutely correct. And as long as you allow them to define who you are by giving them the explanation that no, you are the righteous person, that no, that you're a good person, that no, that you need to be, you should be, and you must be validated, approved, and applauded, you're going to lack that personal power, because you don't need any of that. Now, what aspect of you needs that? Actually, I take that back. You do need that. However, not from others. You need that from self. And that is where the shadow work comes in handy. That is where the sacred isolation becomes the tool of you doing that work. So overall, basically, stop needing to be understood. Stop needed to be loved. Now, don't get me wrong. Wanting to be loved, wanting to be understood, these are beautiful things. Needing to be loved and needing to be understood, that's very different. And this is where you become powerless. And besides that, as long as you are choosing others to do that for you, you're not choosing yourself. You're giving up on yourself by choosing others to do that for you. So this is a job that you got to do. This is a journey that up to you to walk. This is a discovery for you to make. Those shadow parts of self, like the more lights there are on something, on an object, maybe on a table, the more shadows there are. Every time you looked at yourself from a different perspective and you found that whatever you did was beneath you, that created a shadow. And that shadow is now running as a separate program, which I will explain on the other videos on how to disintegrate that program and integrate that consciousness back into it. Basically, it runs as a separate program where a part of your consciousness, a part of your identity, a part of your resourcefulness is actually kind of jailed in it, imprisoned in it, and that program runs endlessly till someone helps you get rid of that. And once that is done, immense power is released, immense resourcefulness is released. We'll go over that sometimes, or maybe reach out to me and I will love to help you out. Now, some people talk about meditation to do the same. Meditative processes are good. Yes, meditative processes are not bad. However, prolonged meditation, what it does is prolonged meditation basically takes you off of the table. What that means is that the longer you go into sadhana, that may give you enlightenment. Enlightenment doesn't mean that you have completely become healed. That means there's no shadow anymore. Enlightenment only becomes that you got more power, meaning if you have this much positive and this much negative, both of them get much more power than what you had before. Enlightenment means you were on the table, and on the table there was shadow underneath you, that was beneath you, that was not you, but still it was there. And off the table means basically just going off of the table into the sadhana, into the disciplined meditation, that what they call Zen state, where you're not even having a placement, you don't even have a placement on the conceptual realm of existence. So who you think you are doesn't even exist in that prolonged, that prolonged meditative state. Usually it's about 45 minutes. Anything after 30 to 45 minutes, you go into that state where nothing exists. You don't exist. You're not there, because there's no sense of who I think I am. And that meditative processes are good. However, they're good to take your awareness there, your conscious awareness, into a complete expansion. And once you have gotten into that complete expansion, you get a taste of enlightenment. You get a taste of liberation. Now, mind that you have to do a lot of meditation for that. For example, like for sometimes I used to sit straight doing sadhana. I have done as about 12 to 16 hours, after which I was able to experience some phenomena which I could call beyond normal, divine, or anything, paranormal even. So those states are achieved there, yes. However, anytime you come back into the realm of existence where the conceptual self, the material world exists, and you are a part of it by either enjoying it or by partaking, playing a role in it, you come back into it. Now there's a bigger problem because you have much more disposition, much more power disposed of to you because of your awareness or your liberation or your awakening, even partial awakening that you went through because of your prolonged sadhana, prolonged disciplined meditation. And because of that, there's even more chaos now. So you must go into that state now where you are completely integrated, so that your demon self, that what you call demon self, is basically liberated. For example, if you read into, I think it was Carl Jung mentioned that he was visited by demons, and that he saw demons on consistent basis, and they would visit him and they would have conversations with him. And there's a whole lot to this understanding as to what he's talking about. However, this part is very important, because now as soon as you do meditation on consistent basis, you have more power disposed of to you, you have more power into you, and your manifestation starts taking role. You start having manifestations happening very quick and fast in your life. And however, the problem is now that your dark shadow, your dark self or darker self or shadow self or demon self are also taking part in that manifestation and manifesting shit, meaning shit being a technical term, by the way. They're manifesting shit that you don't want in life, and because of which it gives you even more pains. And it's a time in your life which is so painful that you just wonder, why am I even alive? And I'm sure a lot of people have gone through. I have gone through. I can't deny that a lot of times actually. However, the freedom, that dependence on self, is the freedom. That personal power comes when you learn that, when you initiate that relationship with the internal self, where your subconscious mind, who's usually at a specific age, depending on which one is more prominent and dominant in your sense of self, that self, you start having a conversation with that self. And that's where the isolation becomes sacred, because in that isolation, the inner self cries, and the higher self or the lower self cries, has tears, is crying, maybe out loud. And the higher self says, don't worry, I'm with you. You're complete. You're awesome. You're phenomenal. You're amazing. It's okay. It's going to be over. It's okay. I'm with you. You're fine. You're amazing. Right? So having those conversations where the higher self is recognizing the dark self or the shadow self and integrating it. And a lot of times it may have, your inner self may have specific requirements that the higher self is catering to. It could be feeding you something good, something you love. It could be buying clothes for yourself. It could be buying shoes. It could be buying a watch. It could be just standing in front of the mirror and saying, man, I love you unconditionally. I accept you. I approve you. I love you. Because think about it, and I'm sure you will agree with me that in this world, everybody is thinking about just themselves. And that's exactly how it should be. Who else can they think about? They only know themselves. They don't know the other. They only know, they have an image of the other person. And it's only right, yes, it's only right to just think about themselves. Because if you don't think about themselves, who would you think about? If you don't love yourself, who would you think about? Who would you love? Right? And even when it comes to thinking about others, people who don't think about themselves are usually the ones who can't care for others. People who can't give themselves love usually cannot give anybody else love. So it's a very, very important part in the maturity of an individual. And a lot of people who are born to good families, when I say good families, meaning parents who did not physically assault them, or who did not, abuse them mentally and emotionally, and judging them, their children, or the children didn't go through any trauma or any of the big traumas. Those people, they grow up knowing all that. However, when it comes to other people, it's a journey, it's a discovery, it's to be honest, it's a complete liberation process where you are uplifting yourself, you are liberating yourself. And as you do that, you're not only just helping yourself, you're basically liberating your whole lineage from generational curses, because your parents treated you like that, because their parents treated them like that, because their parents treated them like that, and that whole process kept on going. And it just keeps on going unless somebody in the family, in the lineage, stands up and says, I'm going to fix this because I am better, because I can, because I should, because this is my duty. Religious duty, or duty as a human, or duty as a son, or duty as a father, however you want to take it, it becomes your duty. So, going back to some of the points that we spoke about, let go of the need to be right. You don't need to be seen as a righteous person. You don't need to be right. Let go the need to be validated. You don't need validation. And if you do need validation, start giving it to yourself. If you do need being considered as righteous, start talking to yourself, because you always did what you thought was the best. You always did what you thought, that what you felt was the best. You always did whatever you perceived was the truth. And you did your best, isn't it? So let go of that need to be validated, and let go of that need to get approval. And for some people who are maybe like me, there's this a lot of need to get applause. That comes right from the childhood, by the way. A lot of people, they get punished if they're not applauded, or if they're not getting being applauded in other people, or if they're not performing high, they get punished in childhood, meaning physical abuse. Or maybe they get emotional abuse, or they are basically kept away from the family, or they're cut off. And in those cases, they look for applaud. So you don't need approval, you don't need applaud, you don't need validation, you don't need to be right, and you don't need to explain anything to anyone. There's no need to explain why you did something that you did, unless you want to have an understanding with them. Now, careful, I said the word want an understanding, not need an understanding. And usually, one quality that I have found that is basically a pure strategical gold, I would say, to help you achieve all of these, is being silent. Being silent. This is one of the most important point, most important quality, because when you are talking too much, you end up looking for validation, you end up looking for approval, you end up looking for applause, and you are also explaining too much. So all of these things, they happen when you talk too much. And at the same time, you're reactive, you're reacting to everything that happens to you, or everything that somebody says. You're in a way giving, right away you are giving the answers, which can be seen as a reaction, which is you're reacting to that person. And anybody who's reacting, like, you give your power away by reacting to the world. You're controlled by the environment, because your behavior patterns are controlled by what is given to you, because you're going to just react to it. And that's basically where you lose all your personal power. So there's something I was listening to today, and I found it very valuable, and I'm going to read that to you. So basically, it says, the one who reacts to everything is ruled by their environment. The one who chooses when and how to respond rules their life. And that, my friend, is not isolation. That's sovereignty, and it's sacred. And besides that, not responding is a declaration to power. Not entering the game of she said this and I said that is a declaration to winning. Basically, it is winning. And not giving explanation is protecting your energy. Silence is your sword. Self-control is your shield. The one who has these weapons and shields basically is invincible. Stay blessed.